Everybody, welcome to Storm Talk. Brian Good here on this Monday. A couple of notes. First off, I'm considering some changes to the blog. Not sure if it's going to be this week or not. You'll know when it happens. There'll be likely two versions of it, or two updates to it. One will be shortly after I arrive here, likely to be an Insomniac kind of an update. So if you're up late or up really early, look for a post then, and then I will likely do an update to it near this time shortly after, because I'm running out of time to really get a lot of these detail blogs in this time of the morning. But we'll try this method and see how it works out, and that will lead the way into how Snow Talk will be done too, which is not that far away. I mean, think about it. I mean, September's around the corner, so technically we're about 60 to 70 days away from some issues with Storm Talk or Snow Talk being issued. Sorry, it's Monday. Brain is already fried. That's one thing I'm noticing on the shift. My brain melts a lot quicker. All right, temperature-wise, 73, muggy outside. You know the story. Here is the current setup on the radar, nice and quiet. But let me go back to yesterday afternoon. We had those thunderstorms that broke out on the radar. They started around Lexington. Ooh, that's a pretty pink, isn't it? Let me change that for you guys. Sorry about that. This is what I get for playing with all the graphics in the morning hours. All right, let me switch this real quick. It's like live TV, except it's not live. All right, here's the latest in Lexington. That's where the storms initiated. They produced outflow boundaries then yesterday afternoon that worked their way off to the west, and now we're waiting to see what is going to happen with the leftover boundaries. Because notice, with outflow boundaries, they're not like cold fronts in a sense that they're going to last forever and ever and ever. They've got an endpoint. This was the endpoint for that phase. Looks like there was one here in Lexington that began to phase out as well. And noticing some development here with the one that died out here over Hart County. They moved out of Hardin yesterday. It's the latest frame in the radar. Looks like that one's already beginning to become active. So 3 areas where if there's going to be a thunderstorm that will likely develop today, I would pick those 3. Does it mean they're going to happen there? No. It doesn't mean they're going to happen or not going to happen outside of there. No, I think that could easily happen over Louisville. But given the fact that what happened yesterday, this is the area. Those are the areas I would look for. In other words, very, very random. We'll monitor that. As far as the models go, the HERD model is showing that activity actually blossoming in the Lexington version of that outflow and then branch to the south and east. Now, the HERD model has a tendency to get real excited on convective setups like this, so it's likely overdone, but it does have the correct thinking, that an outflow, once it gets with some heat involved with it, can ignite, and they will feed off each other and produce more outflows that will then grow into other thunderstorms. So a 20-30% chance of rain can quickly become a 60% chance for rain for a certain section of wave country today. So just a heads up on how that will evolve, and that will likely continue into the lay after period before they fade out, as they do there. Now, looking at the RPM model, it is showing somewhat of a similar idea. You can see the hint of something developing here. And again, our flow is northeast, so it's not so much that the outflows are forcing everything west. It's just that the general flow is to the west from the northeast, so that's the reason why everything's a little backwards today on motion. So backwards weather once again. As we get into tonight, should calm down, no problems. Tomorrow, we still have that east-northeast flow tomorrow, so our moisture levels tomorrow reduced, not eliminated to the point where we've got to take the rain chance out, but there would be a threat for a thunderstorm. It's going to be mainly found where that deeper moisture is holding tough, just to the west of 65. Most of us should stay dry compared to what we may see later today. And then as we get into Wednesday, that is the day the cold front finally does arrive. Now, I think we'll have activity that will blossom out ahead of the front early in the day. That will likely fade as it approaches us, and then we'll see it redevelop again. Here's the longer version of the RPM, showing the activity in the morning hours likely approaching. Should fade out, but then here comes the activity ahead of the actual front. That'll move in Wednesday night into Thursday morning before that will begin to fade out. Are we looking at severe weather? If the afternoon activity can get going, maybe, because the afternoon period does show a bit of wind. Nothing that is remarkably close, or remotely close to, I should say, to severe potential. Very weak wind fields along this front. And the front's coming down at nearly a north angle, which is an unfavorable spot for severe weather for our area. Either way, a gusty thunderstorm can't roll it out if it can hit that heat potential in the afternoon, because in the afternoon period, the best potential for unstable conditions to take place in the atmosphere are closer to Illinois, Indiana. Not much here happening locally, and by the time the activity worked its way in, we're in the time period of night, nocturnal, cooling takes place, so there's very little energy for it to work with on instability. So, sum it all up, I'm not worried about severe weather. Gusty thunderstorm or two? Yes. Can that produce a warning or two? Yes. But really, potential to get a warning is a little higher, really, today than what it will be with the front, because today's instability can produce a pulse thunderstorm that can get up there of about 50,000 feet. They can easily produce some hail and some damaging winds. So, if that all makes sense. All right, so let's look down the road. I've talked enough about this. I always ramble too long on stuff that really isn't that important right now. Anyway, looking at the moisture levels, these are the PWatts, the precipitable water that we have in the atmosphere. In other words, well, I won't explain it. It's too long of a story. All right, so here's the PWatts Thursday afternoon. They are back here. So once you get in these blues and purples, that is the more humid the atmosphere is. And early in the day, it is over Kentucky. So I think we may have some cloud cover early in the day. I don't think we'll have much in the way of rainfall. But by the afternoon period, we get into those lighter greens. Brown will be better, but lighter green, we will take it. That means the atmosphere will continue to dry out. More and more sunshine on Thursday as we head into Friday. Ooh, we got some brown showing up there. So cool, refreshing air. 80s during the day. And then we got some 50s, upper 50s, lower 60s, looks like, for nighttime lows. Now, GFS, I know it came in earlier. It's going like 70s for highs over a lot of our area. I just don't buy it still. They still think the sun angle's too high to get that point. I still think we're talking about 80s here. Okay, Friday. Not bad still. Excuse me, Saturday, I should clarify. Saturday, we're still in the light greens and browns, so still feels comfortable Saturday, although it is going to begin to warm up. And notice the blues begin to show up. Moisture creeping back in. And by the time we get into Sunday, there it is, we begin to get more humid. Now, it is nothing like it was. I mean, keep in mind, this is where we are basically now in the purples. So, yes, we're increasing the humidity, but it's not oppressive, just enough to begin to feel it. And I still think it's enough to create rain either. Labor Day, same story. Still increasing the humidity levels slowly but surely, and you can see them really begin to pull up to our west. So as the weekend goes on, it is going to become slightly more humid, and it is going to become hotter as well, back into the 90s. In fact, you can see the setup here, a very classic setup when it comes to the tropics. This is the Euro looking at the upper layers of the atmosphere. What you're looking at here is high pressure when you see this pink area, hot too. It's showing the tropical system too developing, by the way, next week. I'll talk about that in a second. But anytime you get a tropical system bumping into this, because what happens before this enters the picture is the pink goes all the way out to here. But the tropical system, they love that stuff. They love high pressure. So they're going to feed right into it. And that is going to knock down the ridge and create the rain and whatever happens in the southeast, if it even happens. For us, though, a lot of sinking air. The heat is going to build in. I'm going back up to 94 potentially, if not hotter. Wouldn't rule that out. But we will likely get into a hot period before we get a battle zone of a front moving in from the north and the tropical idea to the south and east. Now, looking at the ensembles here as we head into that same period, actually a little bit later than that, about the 10th or so of September. Here is the GFS showing the heat. Notice it doesn't have the darker reds in the southeast because it's seeing some kind of a tropical influence, doesn't know what to do with it. The European model shows, in general, the ridge in the southeast, and the Canadian does as well. And then just after that, as we head toward mid-September, it does show on the ensembles that no pink showing up, which is good. So no intense heat, although the Canadian's a little hot. But this looks generally like 80s to me, kind of average kind of stuff. But notice on the operational run of the GFS, what it does there, by the way, it takes the tropic system, whatever it is, and pulls it into a front and creates a rainy and cool atmosphere for us by the 13th or so of September. But don't pay attention to operational runs. They update too much with this chaotic pattern right now. All right, let's get to the tropics. Here is Tropical Depression number 9 as we head into the first couple days this week. Still fairly disorganized even through tomorrow, although after tomorrow, yeah, there it goes. Now it's getting organized, likely to become a storm at this point as it approaches the Big Bend area of Florida, and then will likely at that point run out of room and moves into Florida and land and weakens it. Some might also try to take it west. I think the idea of pulling it north with our cold front moving in makes a little more sense. Here's the other one, east of North Carolina. It's going to tease the Outer Banks. Tropical storm watches aren't in effect, more of a rip current issue. See it spinning away, but at this point I don't see it being a major issue. And then eventually will get turned out to sea because of what's coming up from Florida that I showed you. And then looking down the road for this next one, what you're looking at here, this is high pressure in red, and this is our tropical wave now coming off the coast of Africa. it is going to head westbound, and look what happens. High pressure is going to follow along it just the north and keep it from going northbound. It's going to be blocked. So it has no choice but to go west. Now, as we get later in time, as it gets closer to the Lesser Antilles and closer to the United States, it doesn't have that high anymore to block it. So then the question is, where does it go from there? I'm not even going to touch that. Surely the last system should have taught that lesson to all of us. I'll stop there for now. We'll see how it looks tomorrow.